Okay, here's the thing, right? I am in a very interesting space in my head right now. I feel like this coronavirus pandemic has given me a lot of time to, just question life. A big thing that I feel like is coming up a lot in my life right now, like aside from the like conspiracy theories about coronavirus, which I will explain to you why I do not believe that they are true in this video. Anyways, I feel like there's this big sort of like question of like everything's kind of like been put on hold, and now we're kind of questioning where exactly it is that we're going to be in the future. Where do we go from this? Obviously, nobody really knows, nobody can know where we're going to be in 1,000 years' time, for example. I think actually the question could even be, will we be at all? If, human life is going to be able to be prolonged for long enough for us to even, see 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years. So yeah, basically I just thought I'd make a video about it so that I can not suffer alone, Let's get people's minds working so that people can suffer with me. So, I watched this like very interesting Matt Damon movie on Netflix a while back now called Downsizing. And basically what it taught me was that the coronavirus was in fact inevitable. And a lot of like conspiracy theorists will say that, oh, so-and-so predicted the virus and they kind of like mentioned it a few years ago. That shows that, the government is trying to create this pandemic for whatever reason and they're trying to put chips in everybody. I don't know. There's a lot of kind of conspiracy going around surrounding the coronavirus. Of course, there has been literally like since the beginning, but I feel like it's now that the idea of like a vaccine is coming into place, a lot of people really think that can happen. And a lot of people are kind of like picking up on the conspiracies because, to be honest, this whole situation, not many of us have seen a pandemic in our lifetimes, and it does make you think. And we've been literally told to be sat at home, so we've had plenty of time to think. So yeah, for me, I feel like the virus was inevitable. So back to this movie, Downsizing. It was a nice movie, do you know what I mean? And it was on Netflix. I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, but if it is, go and watch it. But yeah, basically the aim of this like movie in a sense was to kind of like explore like this kind of like possibility of prolonging human life for as long as possible. I guess the basic premise of it is that humans were sort of like, with like technological advancements, they found a way, they as in like scientists, found a way to kind of like miniaturize humans, like human form. So lots of people were just kind of like made tiny, and these like tiny towns were created and like cities, and people were sort of like minimized, because the idea was that if you kind of reduce the size of humans, you're reducing their sort of like carbon footprint, you're reducing the waste that they produce, and that will basically cause human life to be prolonged, because obviously if you're much smaller and you're producing much less waste, you are kind of allowing, less CO2 to be released into the air, which causes less, has less damaging impacts on the environment. And then that way you will be kind of like prolonging human life as much as possible, because you're not going to be wrecking it. Now, the reason why I kind of found this to be interesting, there was this like one kind of part in the movie where there was a scientist who had also been made small. He'd been like downsized, and he was kind of trying to get all of these little people to get together and sort of like go in this like bunker underground and then just like reproduce, because he was certain that life was gonna stop through some kind of like happening on Earth. So basically he used the example, he gave like a whole list. So one of them was this kind of like idea that if you continue to, increase your carbon footprint, you continue to increase like, CO2 emissions into the air, all of this stuff will obviously cause global warming, melting icebergs, increasing sea levels, all that kind of stuff. And that will basically cause like an increase in the statistics surrounding like natural disasters. And you know, a big tsunami or something is going to come, a big earthquake, it'll shatter everything and everybody will die. That was one of the examples. Another example was that the population would continue to increase everywhere on Earth, and it would kind of cause like a famine in a sense, because people wouldn't really be able to have enough space or resources to take care of one another or of themselves, and then everybody would die. And then there was this idea of like a huge sort of like pandemic taking over, which also, well, that's the situation that we're in right now, which also is a huge, you know, likelihood that something like this can happen again in the future and it will kill everybody off, because we live in such a globalized like world, the way that the systems are working right now, you know, with free trade, with literal technological advancements. You can get on a plane right now and go to the other side of the other side of the country, to the other side of the world, literally whenever you want. And it's inevitable, of course, you know, there's going to be an increase in like spreading of germs and diseases and illnesses. There's going to be epidemics, and you know, people's lives are going to be lost. And it kind of is this sort of like situation that has happened with the coronavirus, but in the future it can happen again with any kind of illness. And you know, what if we don't create any sort of like vaccine, or we can't find a solution to this like, you know, huge disease, and it literally kills everyone off? I think the idea that a pandemic is so, you know, far from understanding, far from happenstance, that, you know, it must be created by the government, it just doesn't really ring true to me, to be honest. So the movie also talked about this idea that it is possible that the world will end basically because world leaders can't get on with each other, and there's going to be, you know, connections being made between countries, and you know, one civil dispute will lead to this entire like, you know, World War III type of situation. And now obviously with advancements in, you know, nuclear technology, we now can set off nuclear bombs that will, if not destroy the entire planet Earth, it will damage it long term for definite. And even if everybody wasn't dying because of that, we would have serious consequences, and life would literally not be the same. People would have illnesses, you know, food, territory, vegetation. We wouldn't, all of these things would be an issue. You know, even a nuclear war could lead to famine. And then where would you be? You'd literally be in the exact, it all just seems like whatever is going to happen, it doesn't have a good end for us. So the question of us living on 1,000 years into the future starts to seem quite unlikely, you know? But then I feel like this kind of also got me thinking about the idea that world leaders are literally, they play such a large part in prolonging human life. It's almost dangerous, because quite frankly, in the past there has been plenty of, you know, wars and disputes between countries that have been caused by things that have nothing to do with us as like, you know, general citizens, the general population. Why are we being dragged into a world war where, you know, we literally didn't create the problem? Why should we be dragged into it and, you know, have to suffer the consequences when our leaders, world leaders, are too incompetent to be able to get on with each other? I mean, it just creates a whole different issue. So right now what we are doing is all kind of like living in this like democratic system where it's supposed to be sort of ruled by majority. But like, what if it's 51% of people vote for, you know, one leader and 49 vote the other? Doesn't particularly make much sense to me. So the fact that, you know, we can now decide, oh yeah, 51% is a majority, they voted for whoever they wanted to vote for, you're still kind of being left with a lot of people not really being too happy with the outcome. On top of that, I feel like the majority tends to be sort of people just voting for whoever is in power that will push their agenda pretty much. I mean, you're gonna obviously, if you're getting the chance to vote, you will think that whatever it is that you want to happen that will benefit you, which nowadays in this capitalist society, everybody just thinks about it from a financial and economic perspective. Most people, I think the majority that will be voting, will try to look for whoever it is that's going to create the best like financial situation for everybody, which is not really a good thing, because a lot of the times what being environmentally sort of aware means is that you're going to be not necessarily economically the best off. And for that reason, there's so many like industries that won't be put down because they are economically beneficial, and it completely disregards any environmental impacts that they'll have, because people will be like, yeah, we need this company or brand. At the end of the day, when it comes to picking world leaders, like generations down the line, are they going to thank us for the world that we're leaving for them? Probably not. So I guess in answer to the question of where we'll be in 1,000 years' time is either the fact that we simply won't be, or we'll be in a situation that's just so different and so not really livable for us that there won't be a lot of us. There'll be a very, very small number of people on this earth like trying to, I don't know, remake society, civil society. In terms of politics, I don't know what will be going on. All just seems like a doomed type of situation, if I'm completely honest. Another kind of like aspect is maybe we'll be taken over by robots, I think there's been very many advancements in artificial intelligence, and who's to say the AI will not just take over? I personally believe they will, because if you're creating basically indestructible humans, they think like humans, they have the abilities and capabilities of humans, but they are not destructible, why would they not take over? I mean, what? Even if we're not there yet, in 100 years' time, 200 years' time, 300 years' time, why would that not happen? Someone please explain. And it's not like anybody's going to want to stop, science from advancing into that, because it can be really beneficial. I guess the world isn't actually ending, it's just humans and mankind will be ending. So we'll just leave it there. If you are interested, you can follow me on Instagram. If you also feel like you have anything to say on the topic, please comment. I would find that to be very, very intriguing and very interesting, and would definitely encourage interesting and lively lively is probably not the way to describe them, but interesting conversations in the comment section, Yeah, other than that, I need to go and eat food because I'm actually starving. Alright, bye.